is the 41st millennium. For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods, and master of a million worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord of the Imperium, for whom 1,000 souls are sacrificed every day so that he may never truly die. Yet even in his deathless state, the Emperor continues his eternal vigilance. Mighty battle fleets cross the daemon-infested miasma of the warp, the only route between distant stars, their way lit by the Astronomicon, the psychic manifestation of the Emperor's will. Vast armies give battle in his name on uncounted worlds. Greatest amongst his soldiers are the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines, bioengineered super warriors. Their comrades in arms are Legion, the Imperial Guard, and countless planetary defense forces, the ever-vigilant Inquisition, and the tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus, to name only a few. But for all their multitudes, they are barely enough to hold off the ever-present threat from aliens, heretics, mutants, and worse. To be a man in such times is to be one amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. These are the tales of those times. Forget the power of technology and science, for so much has been forgotten, never to be relearned. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for in the grim, dark future, there is only war. There is no peace amongst the stars, only an eternity of carnage and slaughter and the laughter of thirsting gods. Alright, what's up guys? This is gonna be my review on Warhammer 40K Space Marine in 2022. Is it still worth picking up and playing this game that's been out for about 10 years now? Recently, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 was announced, and the trailer was met with positive reception and fanfare. The Warhammer and the Warhammer 40K, especially the 40K IP, I think is one of the best intellectual properties out there, and I'm surprised that we haven't seen a lot more adaptations of it yet. I have a feeling that probably we will, just because there's so much potential there for some kind of, you know, animated CGI or possibly even live action series set in the 40K universe. However, you know, given the climate, maybe it would be ruined by just stupid crap being put into it. But anyways, let's just talk about the game now. So I picked this up on Steam sale for 75% off. It's the Game of the Year edition. It's still full price retail at $60. And in my opinion, that's a pretty high price for a 10-plus-year-old game. I personally wouldn't pick it up for that price, but when I saw it 75% off for $14.99, it seemed like a good enough deal to me to pick it up and give it a chance. So I grabbed this game, and I've been having quite a bit of fun in the campaign. I'm playing on the hardest difficulty setting, which if I could go back and change that, I probably would, because the orcs and the enemies do so much damage in melee that it kind of takes away the fantasy a little bit, and I've been forced to do a lot more kiting than I would like to. For a 10-year-old game, the gameplay is really good, the gore is top-notch. I mean, the graphics are a little dated, but they're still pretty decent on my PC on the highest settings. The game runs extremely smoothly. Never experienced any performance issues or anything, which is great. And just with the hardest difficulty though, it's, if you know, in its time, I'm sure it was probably really good, but it's kind of an artificial difficulty where everything just does a lot more damage, and the mechanics of the game, you know, you have the combat roll. So going into it, I was kind of trying to play almost like Dark Souls, but that just doesn't work. And really my only complaint was that the executions are how you heal, which is fine. I think that's great. The only issue I had was in the hardest difficulty, you don't heal from the execution until the very end of the animation, and you're still susceptible to damage throughout the entire animation, and it takes a decent amount of time. So there were several times where I would start executing someone and I could be at full health or almost at full health, and I would still die during the animation just because everything did so much damage. So looking back on it, I would have lowered the difficulty a little bit, just for the sake of the fantasy of wading into the orcs in melee and just, you know, decimating them in close range. This game is very true to the 40K universe. Everything is how I would picture it. The only thing I noticed that was a little off was that the Inquisitor, who is just a regular human, was the same. There's an Inquisitor character that you have some escort missions with, and he's kind of a big part of the story. He ended up being the same size as the Space Marines and having, you know, what looked like power armor. But aside from that, everything was very accurate and how I would picture it. The game has pretty much all the weapons you would expect in a 40K game. The only thing that I personally would have liked to see is a power fist. That was the only weapon that I haven't seen in the game that, you know, it's one of my favorite weapons out there in the universe. I could definitely see there being a lot of really cool executions and kill animations for it. My favorite parts of the game so far is these ones here where you get the jump pack and the thunder hammer. It's not available to you in the entire game, but there are segments where you will get it and have it for quite some time. But once you get through a certain area, it'll get taken away from you, the jetpack. When I had the jump pack, it felt like the only time I could really outplay the content on the harder difficulty. Very, you know, with ease, or maybe not with ease, but just by, you know, outplaying the AI. Otherwise, I pretty much had to sit back and try and pick everything off with my ranged weapons and whittle them down to a couple enemies before I could go into melee. Some points in the game there was just way too many enemies to go into melee. In fact, there was one area I got stuck on for quite some time where it was just hold the position and defend against wave after wave of enemy. After repeatedly dying over and over and over, I was getting a little frustrated, and I actually found a pretty serious glitch in the game. You can see here, I just went up onto this little rock or something here, just thinking to myself it would be, you know, maybe a way to get the computer to fight my AI allies and buy me a little bit more time to pick them off before getting into melee. Apparently by going up there I was just completely invisible to them and they ignored me entirely. I didn't get attacked at all. It was almost comical. In various parts of the game, you will find yourself in a situation that changes the core aspect of the gameplay, whether it's manning a mounted gun in an airship, shooting down some orc boys, or some orc spaceships, or you get a plasma cannon and you're fighting an orc airship. It's fun and it keeps the game fresh, changes up the core gameplay. You'll gain access to some weapons you typically don't get to use, like the heavy bolter and a plasma cannon, to name a few. After using them on the mount, you're usually given the option to pick them up and wield them. So that's fun, and you get to use them against regular units at times, which just makes you feel more powerful, getting to mow them down or melt them / blast them with a plasma cannon. So in closing, just to give my final thoughts, I would say this game is definitely worth picking up if you can get it on sale, especially at a deep discount like 75% off, 15 bucks. I would say it's definitely worth it, especially if you're a fan of the 40K universe. Even if you're not, it's a pretty good introduction into kind of what it's about. Also, if you are looking forward to the sequel and you want to get an introduction to the characters and the cast and the first story, I would highly recommend picking this up. However, if it's going to be full price, personally, I wouldn't pay full price for this game. $60 for a 10-year-old game, that's a little big ask for me. So try and get this game on sale, guys, and then have some fun killing some orcs, and remember to give them the D.